What's happening, y'all? Welcome inside the Fantasy Stock Exchange. Bush coming at you with the Week 12 trade targets or the pre-Thanksgiving trade targets. I'm afraid this is it. This will be the last trade targets video that you guys see for the rest of the season. So here it is. I'm going to bring you guys 8 trade targets and 2 honorable mentions from previous videos that I've talked about and a couple sell highs at the end. But mainly we are focused on the league winning guys that you guys can be acquiring right now. If you're new around here, first hit the subscribe button. If you haven't already done so, like and comment the video while you're down there. But you should have a pretty good idea what your playoff chances are at this point. If you're not, 5-6 or better, you probably don't have a chance at the playoffs currently right now. For each guy, I'm basically going to try and specify which types of playoff contenders should go after each guy, whether you're a playoff hopeful, maybe you're 5-6 or 6-5, whether you're a middle of the pack 7-4 type of team, or whether you're an 8, 9, 10 win team, 11 win team, favorite to win the championship. I'm basically going to outline if this player is for people who are barely making the playoffs or people who are, the favorites to win the championship this year. So all that being said, it's time to win some chips. Let's get it. Okay, so before I get into this, quick review of the guys that I talked about last week. And again, two of these guys will be honorable mentions for this video. So there's basically 10 trade targets in total in this video. But Devontae Adams, of course, was in last week's video. He exploded, so he's no longer a buy low. Leonard Fournette had a meh outing, but was still solid in full PPR. So if you wanted to go trade for him still, if you can, he is definitely a guy that I would be going after still. Antonio Gibson and Javonte Williams, though, are two of the guys that I would put in this video, but I talked about them last week. He had a tough matchup, Antonio Gibson, last week, so it's understandable why he didn't have a great game against the Carolina Panthers run defense that has been very stingy so far this season. Javonte Williams, of course, was on bye. We're waiting for that post-bye rookie bump. So both of those guys are still great trade targets to go after that could have league-winning upside. But without further ado, let's get into the first trade target of this video, and it is Saquon Barkley. Saquon Barkley, we know, is a superstar talent. I know there's, I've seen plenty of things on Twitter today of people saying, is Saquon Barkley really even that good? I'm like, chill out, guys. He was coming off of a multi-week injury. The stars are aligning, though, going forward from week 12 on for Saquon Barkley. In the 3 fully healthy games that we've seen out of Saquon, and this actually includes week 2 when we still didn't know if he was back to a full workload. This season, the usage that this guy is seeing is workhorse level, right? We're seeing 80+% of the snaps. We're seeing, a good majority of the rush attempts. We're seeing over 70% of the routes, targets, long down and distance, short down and distance, inside the 5 attempts. Saquon Barkley gets everything once he is on the field. He had a ramp-up game against Tampa Bay last night. I'm expecting his volume and his touch share to go up even more going forward. To close out the season, none of the matchups that he has should scare you. The most difficult one is the Cowboys, but it is a divisional game. They're usually close, and they usually are back and forth type of affairs in the NFC East. So as you guys can see on the screen, you pretty much don't have any matchups that you're really scared of. Eagles twice, Cowboys, Chargers especially, very easy matchup. Dolphins defense has been up and down. Same goes for the Bears defense, who is dealing with a lot of injuries right now. And to add a cherry on top of the discount that you're already going to get on Saquon Barkley, we just saw a absolute bomb by the Giants on primetime, right? They looked terrible. They didn't look like they could do anything on offense. The only points that they scored were off of turnovers by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I'm seeing things on Twitter, like I said already, like Saquon is no good. He's averaging 3.2 yards per carry this year. I don't give a fuck what anybody thinks about Saquon Barkley. I know this is a superstar talent. I've seen it. I know it to be true. Yes, he cannot stay healthy. Yes, he's been dealing with injuries throughout his career, but he's healthy now. And we're focused right now on the final couple weeks of the season. I am willing to take the plunge on Saquon Barkley. And again, if you are in need of a Hail Mary play, let's say you're a 6-5 team, a 7-4 team, you're looking at around your league, you're looking at your league mates, and you're seeing there's a super team in my league. I need to get over the hump in order to beat this team. This is the type of player that I am trading for if I'm looking to get over the hump from playoff hopeful to playoff contender and championship contender. Heading into the stretch run, Saquon can be that guy for you. As you guys can see on the screen, some of the trades that you're able to pull off for Saquon Barkley right now are DJ Moore and James Robinson for Saquon. This one that I have circled here is my personal favorite. Adam Thielen and A.J. Dillon. A.J. Dillon specifically is a short-term asset, right? We know he's not going to be very fantasy relevant coming out of the Packers bye once Aaron Jones is back. So if you can trade A.J. Dillon and a wide receiver 2 like Adam Thielen or Odell Beckham Jr. or DJ Moore or somebody like that, and get a guy like Saquon Barkley to help upgrade your roster for the stretch run, that is absolutely something I'm looking to do. And again, if you can trade any kind of back-end RB1 in order to acquire Saquon Barkley as well, like James Robinson straight up, maybe you can trade Darrell Henderson for him. Maybe you can trade Elijah Mitchell plus a wide receiver for him. That is definitely what I'd be looking to do if I'm adding Saquon Barkley to my roster. This is a guy with legitimate league-breaking upside towards the end of the season. We've seen it before. We saw it in 2019 down the stretch run and in the fantasy championship. He won people leagues, and he can do it again. He has that ability. I know he's been injury prone. I know he's coming off an ACL tear, but this is the healthiest he's been in a while. So I'm willing to buy into Saquon Barkley. If you are not in a position where you don't need to risk that, like if you are 9-2, 10-0, 11-1, don't trade for Saquon Barkley because you aren't in a position to take a risk like that. So if this is only for people that need to take a risk to get over the hump, number 2 on the list is AJ Brown. And AJ Brown, by far the player whose name came up most yesterday on the Monday Takeaways live stream was AJ Brown. A lot of you guys expressed concern that AJ Brown isn't getting the targets. He's, dealing with injuries, but here's the reality with AJ Brown. No, the Titans offense is not as good as it's been the last 2 years without Derrick Henry, without Julio Jones, now without Arthur Smith as well, doing the play calling. But this is also true. He is receiving elite wide receiver 1 volume, and that alone is going to propel him into wide receiver 1 conversation because of how good he is, number 1, and 2, because of his volume. Because in the games unaffected by injury this year, where AJ Brown did not leave early, was not limited in any way, he's seen 8, 9, 9, 9, 11, 11, 4, of course, against Marshawn Lattimore 2 weeks ago, and 9 targets this past week. And that's including last week where he did leave for a couple plays here and there because he was dealing with a hand and a shoulder injury. This is an elite wide receiver in the NFL, receiving elite volume, 12th in PFF receiving grade this year and 10th in yards per route run. And of course, he was even better last year. He is getting the elite volume. We're just missing the touchdowns. He only has 3 this year. He had 11 in 14 games last year. And some of those big plays that we've seen from AJ Brown in the past haven't really come very often. They came in a couple game stretch a few weeks ago, but we haven't seen them since. AJ Brown is a guy that you need to be trading for right now because, like I said, he has league-breaking upside. We know the ability. We know the talent is there. We know the volume is there. It's just a matter of this Titans offense playing a little bit better. And if they go on a run down the stretch, he is going to be a big beneficiary of that. As you guys can see on the screen, this is a trade that I'm absolutely willing to do. You take Chris Godwin and Antonio Gibson, who've had a little bit better weeks than the guys that you're trading away for, and you get in return AJ Brown, who I would rather have straight up than Chris Godwin, and David Montgomery, who I would rather have straight up than Antonio Gibson. That's classic example of taking advantage of what the market's valuing because Chris Godwin is on a high right now, just had a big week. AJ Brown is on a low right now. You could basically swap those guys, AJ Brown and Chase Claypool for Adam Thielen. Again, easy trade to make there. AJ Brown straight up for Chris Godwin. I would rather have AJ Brown and Ryan Tannehill for Mooney and Tua. Don't know what that guy's doing. AJ Brown for Michael Gallup, et cetera, et cetera. As you guys can see, all the trades on the screen right now. Cordero Patterson and Devontae Smith and Kadarius Toney. This is the value of AJ Brown right now. He is at an all-time low. Go and trade for him before he gets to that point where we are reminded why he's one of the best receivers in the NFL. This touchdown variance, positive regression, whatever you want to call it, will work in his favor eventually. You just have to be patient, just have to go and strike while the iron's hot. Speaking of Ole Miss wide receivers, we're going to get into his former teammate, DK Metcalf, who is the 3rd trade target of this video. From one Ole Miss wide receiver to another, this is the classic 80 to 90 cents on the dollar type of trade target. We are talking about a guy that will cost you a lot. DK Metcalf, people know what he is. They know the big play upside. They know the touchdowns. They know that Russell Wilson is back, but 2 straight duds in a row, despite Russell Wilson being back in the lineup, will cause for a slight dip in his perceived value by the person that has him. He's basically if Tesla or Amazon went down 10 points on the market. All the sharp investors would be buying stock in those companies because they know it's going to go up because it's a known commodity. That is exactly what you're getting with DK Metcalf. He also has some easy matchups down the stretch, including Washington this week, one of the worst defenses in the league defending wide receivers. Houston in a couple weeks, Chicago and Detroit in the fantasy championship and semifinal rounds. So DK Metcalf, a guy that you definitely need to be buying right now. Russell Wilson is going to be a popular trade target for a number of people as well. But Russell Wilson, to me, is a lot more volatile than DK Metcalf is at wide receiver. So he is the guy, if I'm buying a Seattle Seahawks player, that I'm going to be going out and acquiring. And as you guys can see on the screen, you can get him for a discount right now. If you can get Adam Thielen, that is an easy trade to make. You can get him for Kyle Pitts, easy trade to make. If you can get him for Melvin Gordon, Mike Williams, anybody listed in these trades that I've highlighted here, that is exactly what I'm looking to do with DK Metcalf. Now, moving from one explosive electric wide receiver to another, we're going to go to Antonio Brown, wide receiver for the Tampa Bay Bucks. With Antonio Brown, it's pretty much just been out of sight, out of mind the past couple of weeks. Now that people are forgetting just how dominant Antonio Brown was at the beginning of the season, you can get him while the iron's hot, basically 16.2 half PPR points, is currently the wide receiver 5 in points per game so far this season. His playoff schedule is very solid too. That is the big takeaway from Antonio Brown. And not only that, but the Tampa Bay Buccaneers offense is scoring nearly 7 points per game more when Antonio Brown is on the field versus when he's not on the field. He's the number 3 in this offense. So that Saints matchup on his schedule that looks a little bit challenging. Remember, Marshawn Lattimore will be on Mike Evans. Antonio Brown will be seeing PJ Williams and Chauncey Gardner-Johnson in that matchup, which is very crucial to Antonio Brown's success. And same goes for the Bills matchup. They're going to see Antonio Brown in the slot against their third corner or on the outside against their second outside corner, rather than having, Antonio Brown have to deal with Tre'Davious White and with Marshawn Lattimore. So Antonio Brown, again, people forget that this guy was leading the team in targets when he was on the field. He has a real chance to return against the Colts in week 12, according to Adam Schefter. And even if he doesn't, this is a move that I'm looking to make if I am a playoff contender. If I am a 7-4, 8-3, 9-2, 10-1, 11-0 type of team where I know I'm making the playoffs, I can afford, if Antonio Brown misses this week, I can afford to get by without him. I can afford to wait until the actual playoffs when he matters the most, because the Panthers and the Jets in the fantasy semifinals and the fantasy championship is going to go very well for Antonio Brown. Of course, he does get the Atlanta Falcons 2 weeks from now too, which is going to be a big spike game for him. So if you guys can go trade for Antonio Brown using some of the pieces that I have highlighted here, Mark Ingram, AJ Dillon, Cam Newton, anybody that is a short-term asset or a quarterback, especially, go out and get Antonio Brown, because he could be a league winner down the stretch. We saw his target share. We saw the big play upside throughout the entire course of the early part of the season before he sustained his injury. And I expect him to get back to that guy once he is back on the field. Now, the 5th and 6th trade target of this video are both on the same team, which is why I've lumped them together. DeAndre Hopkins and Kyler Murray. This one's very cookie cutter. So a lot of you guys, I can kind of just skim over this. I'm pretty sure you guys know why these guys are trade targets of mine right now. It's because they've been injured. Not much analysis here. We know Nuke Hopkins and Kyler Murray are elite fantasy assets when they're on the field. Both should be back after the Cardinals bye week this week from their injuries that they've sustained. So try floating guys like Cam Newton, Jalen Hurts for Kyler Murray. See what you can get away with. If you can trade away Jalen Hurts plus a small piece for Kyler Murray, do it. If you can trade away Cam Newton plus a small piece for Kyler Murray, do it. And same goes for DeAndre Hopkins. As you guys can see on the screen right now, DeAndre Hopkins was traded away for Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and they also got Hunter Henry on top of it. Like, that is a very easy trade to make, in my opinion. DeAndre Hopkins traded away for DJ Moore, Cortland Sutton. Wide receiver 2 types traded away for Michael Pittman Jr. and Adam Thielen. Again, give me DeAndre Hopkins over all of those guys. That is a very easy move to make. These Arizona Cardinals players are perfect for those of you guys that are in playoff position already. Maybe you're already in position to get a bye week, something like that. That is who I'm going to be targeting. If I have a playoff position on lock, I'm looking to upgrade my team. You can probably move some of your middling wide receiver 2 types or your low-end quarterback 1 and get up to a Kyler Murray, get up to a DeAndre Hopkins for your playoff championship run. That is definitely something I'd be willing to do. So moving on to the 7th trade target of this video, it is T. Higgins. T. Higgins is the prototypical positive regression candidate right now to close out the season, and we could see him go on a bit of a run down the stretch. Now, even with Jamar Chase commanding such an elite share of the Bengals passing offense, Higgins' numbers stack up with the true number 1 wide receivers in the NFL, like Michael Pittman Jr. As you guys can see on the screen, per Jacob Sanderson, these are T. Higgins' target share, targets per route, air yard share, and yards per route run numbers. And they are very similar to a guy like Michael Pittman Jr., who is the clear-cut number 1 wide receiver on his team. And the reason for this is because the Bengals offense is very funneled to Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. So even though Jamar Chase has this elite target share, elite air yard share, elite share of his team's end zone targets, there is still a lot left over for a guy like T. Higgins to be a high-end wide receiver 2 in fantasy. And he has not been a high-end wide receiver 2 in fantasy from a production standpoint, but he has been that from a usage standpoint. This guy has not scored a touchdown since week 2. I repeat, has not scored a touchdown since week 2. So that is how you can get an edge on your opponents right now. T. Higgins is being undervalued simply because he can't score, which is always an unsticky stat and is bound to regress based on his usage that he's seeing. As you guys can see on the screen, T. Higgins is being traded away for a guy like Rashad Bateman. I love Rashad Bateman, but we're hoping that he gets T. Higgins' usage that he's already seeing. We're hoping that Devontae Freeman and Myles Gaskin and Melvin Gordon can continue to sustain the usage that they're getting, despite some of the red flags in their offenses. Like, 1, they're not very good running backs, and 2, some of them have very good competition in their backfields coming back. So anybody you can trade in that kind of tier of talent that is a hopeful, maybe a buy low candidate, even in their own right, go ahead and trade them away for a guy like T. Higgins, who we know what we're getting. We know the target share is secure. We know the usage is secure. We know we can trust Joe Burrow to get him the ball. The only difference and reason why people are going to undervalue T. Higgins is because of Jamar Chase, because he hasn't scored a touchdown since week 2. So moving on to the final trade target of the video, and this is a guy that I've already kind of touched on in the past, so not much has changed with David Montgomery, who is the final trade target of this video. But the reason I wanted to highlight him once again is because he has a chance to do exactly what he did last year. Be the league-winning running back that he was down the stretch of the NFL season. Not much has changed since week 9. When I talked about David Montgomery in the trade targets video, I told you guys to buy him low. He is still getting elite usage. 95% of the snaps this past week, 24 of 26 of the running back routes, 15 of 16 of the running back opportunities. We just need to see this Bears offense play a little bit better, which is easier said than done. But whether it's Andy Dalton, whether it's Justin Fields, this schedule is very favorable down the stretch. As you guys can see, the Cardinals, the Lions, the Packers, the Vikings, the Seahawks, and the Giants, only really the Cardinals are a tough enough game script and a tough enough run defense to make me a little bit concerned about David Montgomery. These teams are all very susceptible to running backs, especially guys like David Montgomery who get a lion's share of their entire team's backfield. And as you guys can see on the screen, you can acquire David Montgomery on the cheap right now. Somebody acquired him straight up for Jerry Jeudy. Somebody acquired him straight up for Emmanuel Sanders. Package deals are a perfect way to acquire a guy like David Montgomery. The one that I really like I said, was the Chris Godwin and Antonio Gibson one for David Montgomery and AJ Brown. 2 of the guys from this video you can acquire on the low right now, David Montgomery and Travis Kelce in exchange for Tyreek Hill and Damian Harris. I think that also makes a whole lot of sense as well. So those are all the trade targets. Again, if you guys want some idea of who you should be trading for based on your team's record and things of that nature, I think I did a good job of highlighting that. David Montgomery and T. Higgins are also both guys that I would try and trade for if I'm in a playoff position already, not guys that I'd be trading for if I'm looking to try and make a push for the playoffs, because I think they're going to be a lot more valuable at their low price to a guy that is using them in their flex or something like that, as opposed to somebody that is looking to get over the hump and get into the playoffs. So moving on to the sell highs of this video, and I'm going to kind of go rapid fire with these, not going to give, too much analysis because they're all, pretty straightforward, but Myles Gaskin, Devontae Freeman, and Melvin Gordon are all running backs I would be looking to sell right now. Same goes for Elijah Mitchell, who is dealing with a finger injury, who might not be back anytime soon, but specifically Myles Gaskin, Freeman, and Gordon, they all have their own varying levels of concern. For Myles Gaskin, we have Malcolm Brown eligible to come off of IR this week. We know when Malcolm Brown was out there that they were using a 3-way timeshare. Devontae Freeman, Latavius Murray did come back last week, but we didn't have Lamar Jackson in the game taking away carries from Devontae Freeman. So he is a guy I'm looking to sell high right now as well. Melvin Gordon could be a victim of the post-bye rookie bump for Javonte Williams. Maybe he's not, maybe he is, but either way, I'm looking to offload that risk off of my roster if I can acquire a guy like T. Higgins, David Montgomery, somebody like that in return for a guy like Melvin Gordon, maybe Antonio Brown as well. At quarterback, if you're looking to sell high on quarterbacks, definitely Cam Newton, Russell Wilson, and Jalen Hurts fit the description. Jalen Hurts specifically because he has been very good, and you could probably get up to a guy like Kyler Murray. Cam Newton and Russell Wilson simply because I don't believe in their ability to be consistent the rest of the season. I know they're big names, and they've been very fantasy relevant in the past, but I'm completely out on the idea that they're going to be some kind of league-winning quarterbacks. So I'm looking to trade them if I can. If you don't need them, maybe they're their second quarterback on your roster, and you already have a Tom Brady, Matthew Stafford type, then try and sell Cam Newton for Antonio Brown. Try and sell him for T. Higgins, somebody that is a position player that could help your team win a fantasy championship this year. Zach Ertz coming off of a 2-touchdown game. Again, with DeAndre Hopkins coming back, that target share is going to shrink. So he's a guy I'm looking to sell at tight end. Mike Williams and Adam Thielen, wide receivers that are performing pretty well right now, especially given the touchdowns and the big plays that we've seen out of them. So they are guys I'm looking to sell high as well. So if you guys did enjoy this video, please hit the like button, comment any of your thoughts down below, and subscribe to the channel if you are new. If you're looking for all the guys that you should be targeting, you can get our rest of season rankings at thefantasystockexchange.com right now, or you can go back and watch the rest of season rankings video that we did on Saturday. Still pretty up to date. Not much has changed since week 11's games have been played. So peace out, guys, and I'll talk to you soon.